Hello everyone, we are here for the New Life Association Economy and Society Academy winter semester lectures. We are discussing topics related with democracy, human rights and freedoms. My topic is basic concepts of international relations and it's funded by the Matra program of Kingdom of Netherlands. I am Hami. I graduated from Bilkent University, Department of Political Science, and I am a student at I am Master of Arts student at Atılım University, Department of International Relations. Here is what we expect to learn in context of this seminar. We will discuss how the international relations emerged as a distinct field of social science, because it's generally considered to be a part of political science, a subfield of political science, but it changed after diplomatic rules have been established. We will discuss who are main actors of international relationships and who conducts the international relationships. Actors are one of the main topic of international relations. We will discuss the terms of nation and nation state. We will discuss United Nations system and Westphalian order in a historical process. And we will also discuss the dilemma of security in context of nation states and UN system. First of all, first question of I raise that what's the international relationships? I thought it's generally used to be considered as a subfield of political science. But after diplomatic missions and the rules established between the states and several states emerged, it became a distinct field of study in the Britain University of Wales. It established as a professorship in 1990, and that year is also the year League of Nations has been founded in the Geneva. The study of politics, economy and law, but it's in the global level. I mean, for example, we have internal level of, national level of economy, national level of politics, but we will discuss, if we discuss interlevel politics, economy or history, we have to use the concepts of international relationships. We also will discuss the terms of international, transnational and global. What's different between these concepts and the national concept. We will discuss of globalization. Some people will claim that everything is international in era of globalization. We will discuss that as well in next slides. Here is a satiric painting of international relations. It's postmodern looking of international relations. When we look at the history of diplomatic missions and the political entities, we will see Kadesh Agreement first. It's between Hittitians and Egyptians. It's from ancient times. When we look at the chapters of agreement, we will see first mention of sovereignty in the history. That will mean a lot during the history. We will also should look at the history of colonization and decolonization when we focus on international relationships, because the fall of empires in late 20th century we will see rise of nationalism after the French Revolution around the world, and all empires divided into small states of nations that make empire. And we will also have the question of that, what's a nation, and we will look at different answer to this. For some people, for many people, nation is a group of people that shares amount of values and the same history. Generally, we can add this to using same language. For example, French for French people, it's very important in French nationalism. But also there are some dissident ideas about the nation. For example, Benedict Anderson, which was a sociologist, considered nation as an imagined society, something never been real, but the ruling class make us to believe in the idea of nation. We are too many people, but we will never came face to face. Nation state and nation building is important topics of international relationships. We discuss the idea of nationalism rise after the French Revolution. During the French Revolution, the church and caliphate in Islamic world lost its superior power over the states, empires and political actors, and the national ruling class, national merchants, demand more from market. They used to say that this is our nation, this is our country, and we should make profit from our country, not the colonizers. I mean, not the caliph, not the papa, but our nation should be enjoy from this existence, this wealth. The idea of nation is generally imagined as equal, without boundaries and no classes, plus have same idea. The critics of nation state generally criticize the idea of nation with that. They say there are different classes, for example, poor, worker class and the ruling class in the nation, but nationalistic idea of nationalistic view on the politics reject that categorically and promote that nation is equal without boundaries and there is no classes, only we are a nation. We can see in some examples of world there is not a poor nation of someone or something. For example, we look at China. There are many nations inside a state, and they assimilate the other powers with the power of army, and they build a nation over the power of army. Assimilation is something good, something bad. It's discussable in the political science. It's a major debate. Here is a painting of French Revolution, liberty leading the people. You can see French flag at the hands of a woman, and there is people from different classes, merchant and the soldier, following her. You can see in here French nationalism is symbolized with the liberty from the king. French ruling class revolted against the king, and they say we are who the produce and we will govern as well. We don't need to king or aristocracy. Before we talk about the Westphalian order of world. Westphalia is an agreement between Roman Empire and some minor political actors. The most important remainder of this agreement is Westphalian type of sovereignty. In that agreement, the political powers made a first distinction between internal and international relations, and they say everyone should be respectful to others' sovereignty and others' interior affairs. Finally, after the agreement, we can see Westphalian sovereignty taken by several sources, and it became a basis for international agreements, international alliance, and international partnerships. Everyone start to talk about its own sovereignty in the political arena. But it's not fully implemented because when the Westphalian Agreement has been signed, there was still Holy Roman Empire, and there was still the role of religion and role of aristocracy in the politics. Therefore, clashes between parties over the sources ongoing after the agreement. We will talk later about colonization and decolonization later. It was first clashes between the parties regarding the sources after industrial revolution of Europe. After that, we have First World War between several empires and small states, which resulted the fall of empires and rise of nation states in their former lands. But it was not enough for the political powers because not everyone was delighted about the results, and we also witnessed World War II between several parties, empires, and this time between ideological sides. After World War II, people start to World War I, people start to discuss about world peace, it's possible or not, and then they founded League of Nations in Geneva. It's very interesting because it's first global organization that aim solve the problems with diplomacy. League of Nations founded after World War I to prevent more wars among the nations, especially Europeans, in 1919. Same years, the first professorship of international relations have been founded in the Wallace. The aim of League of Nations is promote more negotiations and disarmament among the nations, and it was first experiment of a global organization to prevent wars among the states and powers. We can see between the charters of League of Nations agreement treaties, the statute of mandate. It considered as a legit political system, and some parts of world consider it to be mandates. For example, Syria for French as a French mandate, Iraq as a British mandate, and in addition to that, British Empire had more than one membership in the League of Nations because of the dominions and colonies. But it's failed after the World War to have started with more destructive weapons and ideology. People start to discuss why it's failed, it doesn't work. The first reason should be that not all nations were included in that, and not every global power that have power to rule the world delighted with consequences of World War I. Here is first meeting of League of Nations in the Geneva. You can see all diplomatic delegations work closely with their partners, and they try to reach world peace. It's a well-known liberal idea, world peace. We will talk about it later. After the World War II, we discuss new nation states has emerged. but after World War II, too many nation states have emerged. All of colonies in the Middle East or Eastern Europe became independent states, and they start to their diplomatic mission for recognition. We can discuss some of them as satellite states of Eastern Bloc, aka communists. Additionally, we can witness a new world order. All empires have fallen, and the context of world is bipolar. In one side, Western world, in second side, USSR and its satellite states. The idea of self-determination recognized by both USSR, I mean Communist Bloc, and the Western leaders, and that became a motivating idea for nations without states. After the World War II, the diplomatic missions of all world start to look for a new cooperation agency, and they founded in 1945. They founded United Nations over the Westphalian Order. The goals are same with League of Nations. They aim to prevent more wars among the nations and promote negotiations, also control the nuclear weapons system. We can see lots of refer to Westphalian Order in Charter of United Nations. For example, in Charter 2, we can see all member states are equal, and unlike the League of Nations, UN has very strong, powerful executive bodies like Security Council. Security Council can intervene any state if needed, and it consists of 5 permanent members. We will discuss about that later. At the first slide, I told we will discuss the actors of international relationships, who are main actors and who are sub-actors of international relationships. According to realist theory and according to liberal theory, which are major international relationship theories, states are most important actors of international relationships, as they have monopoly of power inside a national border. The states who have full control over their lands are sovereign states, and we will also should mention about failed states which failed to hold their territory from the other states or insurgencies. Also, we need to talk about the de jure and de facto sovereignty. For example, Turkish Republic in northern Cyprus is de facto independent. They have all things of being state. For example, monopoly of power in a certain land, diplomatic missions, etc. But they not recognized by United Nations nation. And that's why it's not considered to be a de jure sovereign state, rather than the Republic of Cyprus is de jure sovereign of island of Cyprus in the international arena. We can also talk about non-state actors, which there is several sub-actors, multinational companies, which hold most of wealth of world in today's world. International and regional actors, for example, European Union is alliance of European countries for the development and the security of European states. And we can also talk about armed groups like terrorist groups. They also can control land financial sources, but they are not considered to be legit actors. We can also talk about non-governmental actors and which NGOs. They control their government doing good or not from an independent point of view. We will discuss what's international. At the end of the lecture, I mentioned about some people believe that everything is international in era of globalization, but there is also debate about that, which says the states still hold the monopoly of power within national borders, and they are strongest actors of international relations. In the second hand, we have transnational or international organizations, which consist of 2 or more states, and it's effective in many states, not only one state. Plus, we have global organizations such as NATO and the United Nations. They have been operating around the world, and they have no border for area of work. I want to talk about globalization and interventionism by the realism and the liberalism, which are 2 major theories of international relations. Liberal theories, more like democracies, do not fight each other because all are accountable states and they will respect each other. But in the realist theory, everything is power, and the international system is based on anarchy. Who have power can crush or violate others' right. Therefore, the states should seek survival in any condition, in any circumstances. It should look at for its survival. Some realist and some liberal scholars discuss the globalization era as end of sovereignty, because they think multinational companies can intervene any state, or the global powers can intervene any situation in the world within a very short time for their benefits. For example, these scholars also discuss the fall of nation states. They say the nation states are not protectionist as they used to be in the past, and the role of multinational corporations, which control most of wealth in the world, rise, and they can control government policies. There is also a discussion about responsibility to protect principle and humanitarian intervention. Responsibility to protect generally means sanctions by the world over a state to stop its aggressive actions to a group of people without any defense. But the humanitarian intervention generally refers to armed action, military action, or military threat against someone who violate the international system and international law. According to realist theory, interventionism and also responsibility to protect are a way of interventionism for global powers' benefit. We also will discuss security dilemma. When we look at political arena, there are many parties. Some of parties are fighting with each other. For example, in the example of Northern Ireland, we can see some of IRA militants are heroes for the Catholic population, but terrorists for the state and the Protestant population. There is a problem in here. Once freedom fighter can be others terrorist. We also witnessed in Afghanistan when Afghan Mujahidins fighting against USSR. They were freedom fighters for the Western world. But after they conduct some terrorist attacks in the Western world, they became terrorists. They are fighting against us. Therefore, they are terrorists. Also, we can discuss about that. Think about two rival political entities. If one is secure and have no any security problems, then other will have security problems, because the strong enemy is a problem for your political survival and entity in the short and long term. Therefore, realist scholars will call this relative security theory. Rather than we are secure or not, our rival should be insecure for we feel more secure. After the 9/11 attacks in the United States of America, US changed its concept against terror. Before the 9/11, they call their fight against their campaign as a fight against terror. It's smaller and only consists of military way. But after the 9/11 attacks, which the terrorists loyal to Taliban targeted very important positions in the United States of America, they start to use the term of war on the terror, which is a total war against the terror. We can see its consequences in the Iraq after the US intervention, and Afghanistan a smaller part of intervention, and later in Syria. For example, US Army conduct special operations in the some Syrian cities, and tell the government of Syria, it was my national security concern, and I am on the war against terror, and I had to do this. Thank you for listening.